Yeah, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the lighting, how we create lights with BowerBot. And these lights are specifically for USD. So some of the lights that BowerBot can create, it will be like dome lights, point lights, area lights, disc, tube, etc. Right? So we have in the README, you will see like all supported lights that BowerBot can create. So as an example, I still have our project that we were creating last time. And this one, I'll just open BowerBot with this project. Here, it really depends on the prompt that like where you want to place that light, right? So in this case, we want this light to be in this mesh, which is the bulb. So I'm gonna copy this name and I'm gonna tell BowerBot to place a light into this lamp, specifically in the bulb mesh, and make it the same size as the mesh and the position as well. We can take a look at BowerBot created a sphere light, and it will tell you where exactly was placed and the position, the radius of this light. So we take a look, we'll see that we have already this light. So I think we can just switch to stage light, and you will see that only that light is gonna be referenced to this specific asset. How we can know that? How can we know that this light is not in the scene but is from the asset? So if you take a look at the ceiling large lamp, which is the asset that we're affecting here, you will be able to see that now we have LGT, which is reference to the lighting parameters, and in here is where all the data and configuration is for the light. If we take a look, if we open this asset, for example, the ceiling lamp, take a look at the light USDA, you will be able to see like the color, exposure, intensity, the radius, and the position of this light, and is referenced by this layer in the root file. We can see that it's in the first item of the list, right? So this is pretty cool. So you can switch to the default or stage, right? The default lights are the default lights from Omniverse. But if you want to see how your lights are working, just switch to stage lights, right? So, but with this, we can also tell BowerBot to change the the color of the light, change it to a color like purple. The exposure might be so high, and the intensity, we can just tell BowerBot to adjust the exposure and the intensity as well. And you'll see that it's not that intense anymore, right? So you can have like multiple assets like this one, like the lamp, and you can tell BowerBot to, make the light scene to be more like colder or like a nightclub lighting, and it will, understand what type of lights and colors it needs to do. So this is one type of light. This is a light that belongs to the ceiling lamp, to this asset. But there are lights that are specifically for a scene, right? So if I take a look as I said, this light depends, or I mean belongs to the ceiling lamp. If you see the scene file, you will be able to see that the only thing that is referencing is the root of the asset, nothing else, right? There's no materials here, there is no lighting here, but there are lights that belongs to the scene. For instance, a sky dome, right? A dome light, for example. Those are the ones that, you know, belongs to the scene. I have in my local assets, I have some HDR's images for the dome light. So we can use those. I'm going to remove this light that I created from the lamp. And you will be able to see that there's no more light USD file in here. It's just the material, the geometry, and the root file, right? So we are going now to focus on the scene, this scene where the dome light is gonna be placed in the scene. The dome light does not belongs to this lamp, right? It belongs to the scene. So for that, just tell BowerBot create a dome light for the scene. And BowerBot will know that dome lights belongs to the scene, but you know, it's better if you are more descriptive in your prompt. So the dome light has been created, so let's take a look. And then you will see that the dome light has been created in there. So if we switch to the stage lights, you will see that, yeah, the light is emitting some light in here. So in this case, let's take a look now how the scene file looks like. So before we used to have only the reference of this specific asset, and now we have the DOM light created in the scene file. So now let's see. DOM lights, you can also attach HDR images. I have some in my local assets. In here we have in the HDR folder in my local assets, so I can just tell BowerBot to add one texture to that light. Let's see. So I just asked BowerBot to add a random HDR image for my local assets. So it picked one for my local assets and it attached that texture image to my DOM light. So let's take a look. Yeah, so you can see that the texture image has been placed. You know, you just have to play a little bit around with the orientation of the image depending on how you want the light to be projected in your scene, right? So in this case you can see the shadows in this lamp, and the light is more intense on this side. So you actually need to balance a little bit the intensity and exposure of this light. Okay, it increased the exposure. As you can see here, it's created like you know, the intensity and exposure of this. You can change, you know, as well, you can change the rotation of the texture. But at the end we have light that is a DOM light. So those are the main lights that I will I will say you can play around with the other lights. As I said, you can take a look at the documentation and you can tell BowerBot to create a specific light, for example, a disc light or tube. But it really depends on what you are building. This is just a demonstration of what you can do with BowerBot and how is writing behind the scenes, how is writing the USD files, and you can see that it's writing the lights exactly where they belong, as long as you tell BowerBot where you want to place those lights, right? So you don't have to do it manually. Also, the textures assign, right? So this DOM light has a texture, so it created a textures folder and it plays there the specific textures that we are using.